Welcome to Dementia-Friendly Prince George's County, Maryland Northern Sector webinar series for caregivers. Today's topic is Strategies for Improving Communication with Alzheimer's Disease, presented by Dhruti Patel. Sponsored by Prince George's County Government and the Department of Family Services.
We are going to talk about beyond words and how we can actually enhance communication with our loved ones who does have ADRD. From now onwards, I'm going to use the word ADRD just to make it easier and easier to converse. All right, so before we get started, I'd just like to say that the University of Maryland extension programs are part of our overall programming and activities and facilities are available to everyone without regard to all those categories that you see. So in short, anyone who wishes to learn from us, we are always welcoming them. So we are glad that you're here today. All right, in today's session, we are going to talk about three main aspects on this topic. First being, how can we create an awareness around communication barriers that we might experience, or preparing for those barriers so that when they arrive, if they were to arrive with your ADRD individuals in care, how can you respond and prepare for it? We are also going to look at some, cues of the disease progression. Again, this is all about that self-awareness to see where they are at in terms of disease and how can you prepare better through good communication protocols and frameworks. And lastly, some of the strategies and resources with our individuals in care. How can we do better with them in terms of communication, is we're going to learn that. Describe your experience or generally speaking, many individuals who are ADRD individuals who are caring for loved ones with ADRD tend to experience many challenges in terms of communication. There might be feelings of confusion, helplessness, also frustration of not being able to help out as well because of the complexity of the disease itself. And also, a bit of anger in terms of, not knowing how to navigate these challenges that are emerging every day differently. And so therefore, these uncertainties can create a cascade of emotions and feelings and experiences that can be extremely challenging for the caregiver. So it is definitely something that needs to be paid attention to when it comes to caregiving. All right, so when we look at hold on just a second. When we look at overall manifestation of ADRD, it can be broken down into three different distinctive patterns or elements. The very first thing is very obvious, as we can imagine, right? It's the memory, and that's what we know the best. In colloquial understanding, we understand that Alzheimer's disease or related dementia has something to do with memory, changing of memory, memory loss, alterations in the memory, right? So we know this, and so I'm not going to dive too deep into it. There are certain brain changes that happens which actually impacts our memory centers in the brain, and therefore we start to alter our memories. And I do want to preface one thing: not a single person's the manifestation of symptoms look the same. They're highly unique, and they manifest in different ways. And so you cannot put boxes around early stage ADRD may look like this, mid stage looks like this, and late stage looks like this. So it's just you can only put so much framework around it, and everyone's symptoms and progress is going to look very different. And so whatever I'm going to share with you, please use this to inform yourself to what to look for. However, be also open-minded and learning all the cues that you're observing in your loved one. So we talked about memory. Let's talk about cognition. There are other things that also starts to get impacted when somebody has ADRD. For instance, the learning is difficult. Learning new things, especially, is difficult. Even if they're trying to learn, the retention of that learning activity task is difficult to retain. Understanding or comprehension, you realize they're having a harder time in comprehending things that they were able to before, and now they're having struggles with that. Awareness of their environment, awareness of their own space, in their own presence in this particular space, for example, home or outside, maybe with friends. That awareness starts to change too. Reasoning starts to alter too, and again, you will notice these patterns where the type of reasoning that they would provide for doing certain things would not be typical for them. Judgments, again, is the same critical thinking aspect, which is usually going to get compromised. In a later stages of ADRD, you're going to notice language changes too, where they may start using a very peculiar way of communicating, or they don't communicate as much. Imagine when you are having hard time speaking. You know what you're feeling or you're trying to say, but you don't know how to form words. These are the kinds of struggle that individuals with ADRD experience. And so not only just your memory is changing, meaning your sense of identity is changing, but even the way you speak and express yourself to maybe communicate certain needs also alters. It's a very dynamic and also very unpredictable disease, and that is why that is what makes it extremely difficult to navigate as caregivers. And imagine for the person, at least in the early and mid stages, who still have some understanding of who they are, imagine the struggle that they themselves are having, right? Some of the behavioral changes are also going to start to happen, where the things that they love doing they don't like them anymore. There's certain everyday patterns are changing. They're not waking up in the morning and making their coffee maybe that they used to love making, and those little changes are happening in their everyday, so you'll start noticing those shifts a lot too. All right. So, as I said, that communication difficulties and changes are among the earliest signs you're going to notice as caregivers. That's the very first thing you'll notice. Language-related challenges are also some of the few that you're going to notice. The verbal expression that they maybe are used to starts to alter. Their pronunciation may be different, and this may actually happen especially for those who speak multiple languages. Maybe you'll see them speaking different, rely on other language that maybe they learned when they were very young, or maybe they grew up with, and now they're using that more over the language they're used to speaking currently, right? They tend to repeat a lot of information every few minutes. I think this is also a very prime and most known example of that. Also, hearing comprehension, they're having a hard time with listening too. Or if they're listening it, they're having a hard time comprehending, as I mentioned before. Reading and writing also starts to get impacted by this too, because they are struggling with language itself. Right. So as you can see, there are many things that are all, changing and diminishing from their capabilities that they did have. All right, so that brings me to a next question for you. What are some communication changes you have noticed in your loved ones that you care for? Communication difficulties, let's start with that. Let's get in more detail with what that looks like, right? You can't find the right words, meaning you're not able to articulate what you're trying to say through words, or selection of words are a little bit off for them. Losing chain of thoughts, maybe they might be talking about a certain event, and then suddenly you will realize them skipping that information because they lost chain of thought. Forgetting steps to common tasks, as I mentioned, like making coffee, right? Somebody maybe who loves to make coffee in the morning, suddenly they're forgetting that very crucial task that they always did, or they maybe are making it differently, like than how they make it now. And so those little changes in the daily chores or tasks starts to happen too. Gesture reliance over speaking. So basically, they start to focus more on the gestures, meaning show it through their bodies and gestures rather than speaking. Again, gestures are a little bit easier than language. As I said, like language is something that gets impacted in early stages. Gestures are something then they start to rely more on. So if you start noticing that they're doing that more and more, you know that language is getting affected, and that's why they're struggling so hard and trying to communicate through their bodies to show you what they are, what they need. Sensitivity to touch, tone, and loud noises are also extremely common, and this tend to happen a lot as they get closer to mid-stage of ADRD and thereon, where they start becoming very, very cautious and apprehensive about being touched in a certain way or certain tones that are used, right? And so one of the strategies I'll talk about is to do with tone. So we'll discuss that in just a second. Also, they are very, very sensitive to loud noises or noises that are that come towards you out of nowhere, right? Instantaneous type of voices that can be very sensitizing for them. They speak less, as I said, because of the language barrier and having to lose words. That happens a lot too. So you will see them speak less and interact less. They describe objects rather than naming them, meaning they may say, you know, something to write on. Can I use this to something that you write with, right? Rather than saying a pen, right? So they may start forgetting the terms, what are the objects called, but they start telling you what the function of that object is and trying to describe you what they need, right? So those things might start to show up too. So as I illustrated some of the difficulties with communication and changes with the communication, let's also look at what can this good communication do for your loved one that you're caring for. It's a two-way street, meaning it is going to benefit not only them, but it is also going to benefit you. You are setting a good foundation for your loved one and yourself to preparing towards the progression, because unfortunately, we haven't found the cure for this disease yet. But there are many ways you can maybe slow down the progress of it, or maybe have a better care for them as much as you can, right? So the idea behind this is that having a good communication from the beginning can prepare you for progression. A good communication can also foster learning experiences, which is extremely wonderful thing to have for dementia care. As you know, and you must have already heard it, that the more they engage in activities, the better they will be, better their brains are going to be. And if the brains are better, that means the disease is going to be in a little bit better control. Right, so that is very important. Also, when you have a good communication with your ADRD loved ones, it builds trust. You know, realize this, that they may start to not recognize you eventually, and therefore building this trust and having the processes in place can actually help them continue to know you, even if they may not realize that you are maybe their partner, their child, their friend, or etc. Right? But if you have a good protocol in place, it can help continue to have that trust. And again, I'll talk about that in just a second. Good communication always helps with awareness, but of awareness of symptoms, needs, and care. And the more aware you are with what is happening with them in terms of communication, because let's be honest, communication is the easiest way to catch some of these changes. And so it is very, very important to actually have this awareness to be able to catch the progress, and therefore you can maybe you know, consult with the healthcare professionals or other professionals who are helping you in supporting that individual. So that's very important too. It also helps you reduce stress because you feel a little bit more sense of control if you have a good communication. And this doesn't just apply to, caring for ADHD individuals that you care for, but in general, a good communication always is better for any human being, right? So those are some of the foundational benefits of it. Now let's look at strategies. I've been talking about this for some time, so now we're diving deep into it. So when, let's say your ADHD loved one is in the early stages of ADHD, they are still able to have meaningful conversations with you. They're still able to connect with you and other people. You start noticing them maybe repeating stories once in a while. Or they may get overwhelmed by certain stimulation. This can look like maybe you're going to a party or barbecue, and there are a number of people surrounded that individuals, and everyone is talking together like we always do in group setting. That type of a setting can be more overwhelming for those individuals. So that is something to remember. So what we can do in these stages is do not assume at this stage. We don't know. And it's always a great idea if you start suspecting that there's something going on in terms of dementia or Alzheimer's, or they have a history of it, a genetic history of it. The first thing that you need to do is to get a clarification. And the way we do that is to get a proper diagnosis first. So talk to their healthcare professional, encourage them to go to healthcare professional, and I advise you or any other loved one to go with them. Just hear the health professional out and see what needs to be done. Don't exclude them from conversations. At this point, they're still engaged, they're still able to hold conversations with you, and it's important for them to know what is going on with them. Because imagine being in their shoes where you start to see lapse in your memory, and you are noticing that things are changing, you are changing, your interactions are changing. It can be a very frustrating place. But having to be part of the understanding of the diagnosis and knowing what to expect can give them a relief and a sense of preparedness of what they need to do to make sure that they themselves, as well as you as their loved one and other family members, are also prepared with them. Speak directly to them, not in long form of conversations. How I'm speaking, that is not a good idea. We have to speak in short sentences, speak clearly, and pause for a response. This is very important. Let them process the information. So use short sentences and pause. Ask very direct questions too. Do not ask them a lot of questions, and give them options. Do you want, rather than asking what beverage would you like to have, what would you like to drink, say that I have coffee and orange juice. What do you want? Right? Simple. Give them options. That's the easy way out, and easy for them. Eye contact is very, very important too. And eye contact gives them assurance and allows them to focus on you. Honesty with compassion. You have to be honest with what is going to happen and how you can help them prepare for it, and how they need to prepare themselves, but also be compassionate by putting yourself in their shoes to understand the kind of conundrums that they're experiencing at this stage. Because the sad reality is, this point, they're still cognizant of what is happening within them, and that is very frustrating if you can only imagine. Use other ways to communicate and rephrase questions if need be. As I said, use options. Don't ask open-ended questions. Maybe start to or maybe I invite you to say, start with open-ended questions. See how they're responding. If they are struggling, then you start, getting a very direct conversation with them. Okay. In mid stages, it's better to do one-on-one conversation. It's at this stage also. First of all, okay, let's back off. Let's start with the care. It is very, very important to look for care at this point, because this is the stage where you're going to see way more evident symptom change with them, and way more dependency on you and other people who might they be in care of. Sorry. And so focus more on one-on-one conversation. Like I gave an example of a barbecue, right? Let's not do that. Maybe have one-on-one sit-down conversations. Speak extremely slowly and clearly. Again, the eye contact is very important. Give them time to respond a little bit longer than maybe in the early stages. Ask one question at a time and then let them give you a response. Avoid arguing and criticizing. At this point, there is no point in doing that. You do the best you can at this point in trying to help them understand the situation. I'm not saying that, again, as I said, like it's a spectrum, so you don't know what kind of symptoms are evolving at any stages of ADRD. So maybe they are still functional, maybe they still are able to understand and comprehend what you're saying, but if they are not, then maybe do not distress yourself. Try to find other ways to calm yourself down and find solutions outside of the of having to have their consensus or having to have their understanding and comprehension. Repeat if needed. Clear instructions are great. Visual cues are beautiful, again, because they start to use a lot more gestures than verbal exchange anyway. So visual cues and showing gestures are a really good way to do it. If they're still able to read and write, maybe written notes, having it at specific places where they visit more often is a great idea. So that just reminds them to do certain things, right? At late stages, it's usually use non-verbal communication. At this point, they are going to need a lot of help and care. And I invite you to start thinking from the midpoint onwards. Actually, I would say the moment they're diagnosed with ADRD, you should start looking at resources that is out there to help them as the disease progresses. And so by this time, they are definitely in need of care. Always approach from front rather than from the side or the back, because that can startle them. Use very soft touches and soft sounds, soothing scents, and taste and taste as form of a communication method, meaning having more tactile type of experience is much more preferable at this point in comprehension. Awareness of their actions and behaviors. What do they mean? At this point, it is going to be extremely difficult to help them understand the situation. It's very, very difficult. And so it is the advice would be focus on the management, then try to help them understand at this point. Respect and dignity. Even though they're struggling, even though they are not who they are anymore, they still deserve respect and dignity. And I know it can be extremely difficult to do this, because caregiving is a 24/7 job, and I commend you to taking on such responsibility. It is not easy. I hope that you're doing enough to take care of yourself too, to be able to unwind and de-stress yourself as you can. But remember that they also deserve that human dignity, no matter the stage. It is okay to not know what to say and how to react. You are not a clinician. You are not a trained professional. You're just a human being who's trying to help another human being that is close to you. And that is difficult. And giving yourself that grace is extremely important in this aspect, and having good network of support for you is extremely important too. Okay, some of the other practical strategies we have is keep a routine. That's a very, very important thing. The better structure you can provide them in their life, the more easy for them it is to actually cope every day. Write to-do list, appointments, or calendar. This especially applies when it's an early stage. Plan enjoyable activities as in when you can. The more stimulated they are mentally and cognitively, the better it is for them. Just because they have Alzheimer's in early stages and even mid sometimes doesn't mean that they are not able to function. or not able to utilize their brain. You just have to find creative ways for engaging them. Systems and reminders for medications is a great idea too. Also, monitor autonomy, as in when you think they're able to, give them the autonomy. Let them take shower if they're able to safely, and supervise it if need be. If they can dress themselves, button their shirts, things like that, those little tasks is autonomy. And just because somebody has ADHD doesn't mean they cannot have autonomy. If they're able to, then you should encourage that. Let them be independent as much as they can, and they are able to, but always, of course, supervise them too, right? Let them wear comfortable clothing that is less messy and comfortable. Consistency, again, is important. Routine, just like routine, have them have consistent place where they have food, where they have certain activities, etc. So they at least can be anchored in those activities as best as they can. So I have one more question here. What strategies do you use to communicate better with your ADHD loved ones? Many times what I hear when I teach this this content to our caregivers is that they focus a lot on creating reminders. That tends to be very helpful. They also try to actually put the reminders on the phone too, so that the phone buzzes and they can actually use that to send reminders or texts, etc. They also schedule texts that can be sent to the individuals as a reminder too. So there are many different ways you can communicate better in that way. I would love to actually have you, if this is going to be posted on YouTube, I would love to hear comments from people of what they do. Let's share the ideas, because you never know that your ideas may relate to somebody else in really dire need. So let's help each other out with caregiving.
Dhruti, someone did leave a comment. Deb said that she used to touch on the hand.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, Deb. I think that's a very wonderful, very soft gesture to try to direct the attention of your loved one, and you are doing it correctly. If you do that, it just draws their attention, but with gentleness that they need. It's not overly stimulating or startling, right? So that's a great thing. Also using gentle voice, like soft voice, slow voice. Those are calm voice is also very, very good. One of the things one of my audience actually mentioned to me is that her loved one responded better with female voices, female presence than male presence. And when I asked them why, they said that the male generally have much more stronger voices, and also the presence is a little bit stern, whereas women's voices are generally softer. And the loved one that they were caring for preferred that gentle voice. But again, even males can be soft-spoken too and be gentle. So the idea is that slow and gentle voices without too much fluctuation is always a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. All right. This last one talks about building your community network. This is not a single person's job, and if you are doing something like that, first of all, I commend you, but I also invite you to the idea of finding support for yourself and building network for yourself. Try to engage in more self-education, because this is a hard battle, and it is not a short battle either. It is going to be most likely be prolonged and long time. So it is a good idea to actually educate yourself about the disease and more about how to support this person. That also includes your healthcare insurance, your healthcare professional consulting, right? All those medication management, all those things are extremely important. And this is the one big reason why my heart goes out to all the caregivers, is because I know how difficult and inundating this can be. So even clinicians struggle with that, or support staff struggle with caring. Can't imagine what a fellow human being who is just trying to care would be experiencing too. Find again professionals who can help you, and this also includes professional for yourself. You have to make sure that you are prepared for it too, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or financially. You have to plan your life too, because that cannot be put on the back burner either. Build your friends and family network. Keep them in good communication. Let them know of what is happening. Identify those few people who are going to be great at helping you out and be a sounding board for you. Someone you can have conversations with, or someone you can actually have connections with who can help you in finding professional support or things like that, right? So you need to have these people. If you don't, please, I hope in next few days you try to identify those network people for you. These are also the people you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I have to go take care of my child. Can you please, just for 2 hours, take care of my loved one here, just for 2 hours, right? So that kind of networking can be really helpful and powerful. Connect with support groups. People who are in caregiving truly understand where you're coming from, and that is why it can be such a powerful interaction. And so, and Alzheimer's Association has wonderful resources that I highly encourage you to go on their website and look for support group. They have a lot of beautiful resources, so please utilize the support group and try to be there. There are some support groups that are in person, but then there are others that are online too. So whichever is workable for you, try to have that for yourself. Prioritize your well-being with realistic expectations. Make sure that it's much easier for me, first of all, to say take care of yourself, but reality is that we don't have enough time as caregiver to actually pay attention to ourselves. And so whatever you can, even if it's 5 minutes of a break in a separate room, you just take a few deep breaths and get out again, that is okay too. Whatever is realistic for you is what you should be doing and prioritizing for your well-being. So please take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, how would you take care of the person you are caring for? And so your first and foremost duty should be to focus on your well-being, take care of you, and then take care of your loved one. I have a very nice video here that I would like to share with all of you.
A person living with dementia may have trouble expressing themselves or understanding what's being communicated. Try these 5 tips to help you stay connected. Tip 1 is use what you know about the person. What does the person like? Use that knowledge to suggest conversation topics or activities they may enjoy. Nurture the person's skills and abilities. Focus on what they can do instead of what they can't. When the person's making a choice, offer them a couple of options that you know they will like. Tip 2 is reduce distractions. Take notice of what's around you. This is a simple thing to do, but it can make a big difference. Identify possible distractions in the person's environment and try to minimize them. Account for any hearing or vision challenges the person may have. Make eye contact to help focus the person's attention. Tip 3 is chat face-to-face. When speaking with the person, be clear and concise. Avoid talking to the person if you're behind them or where they can't see you. Speak clearly using short and simple sentences. Show as well as talk. Using actions can help give your words meaning. The 4th tip is to be flexible, as it may not always go as planned. A person's abilities can change from day to day. So take a few moments at the beginning of the conversation to assess how they're doing. Look for changes in behavior and body language that may tell how the person's feeling, especially if they may indicate discomfort. Adjust to accommodate. When the person's unable to communicate verbally, communicate through the senses, like touch. Our 5th tip is to stay positive. Help make the person feel comfortable by modeling the mood. Be aware of your own tone and body language. Connect instead of correct. Ignore mistakes and give encouragement. When you feel overwhelmed, take a step back and exhale. Remember to take care of yourself too. It's not easy to be there for the person living with dementia, while also taking care of yourself at the same time. There will be days when these tips don't seem to help, but your presence is still felt by the person living with dementia, even when it may not be obvious. And it's important that you find a healthy balance and ask for help when you need it. Remember, you're not alone. For more tips and
So as you can see, I think this was a really good wrap-up video that synthesized everything that I just mentioned. So this concludes my presentation today.